Hi, everybody. It's great to be back with you for another edition of Great Companies, Great Leaders. I'm Christine Gannon, and today we have a spectacular guest who will be sharing her wisdom and insights not only on leadership, but recommendations for women and financial stability. So today's episode is sponsored by our company, Brightworks Consulting. And we are a diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm serving organizations with best practices and research-based solutions that create inclusive cultures, which is really important, that employees feel like they belong. And so we have a strong belief that real change happens in the communities where we live and work. And our guest today shares our passion to enhance the lives of women and girls in our local community. So please welcome Renee Hansen. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. Renee is a certified financial planner with 32 years of experience providing comprehensive financial planning, including portfolio risk management, income strategies, retirement planning, and insurance planning. And as a certified divorce financial analyst, she has helped clients navigate the financial aspects of divorce and other major life transitions, such as retirement, job change, widowhood, and business liquidity. And I have to tell you, when I read that, that gave me such peace that you do that, because a lot of times when we think of financial planning, we don't think of all the different events that happen. I mean, obviously divorce is very common, but widowhood, we don't really talk about, right? And job changes. So that gave me such peace to know that that's available.
I think when you divorce, we know the numbers are about 50%, but the average age of a widow is 59. It's young. Yeah, people think that it happens when you're older. And life quakes or life transitions, as you say, it changes how you think about money.
It does. And I don't remember the statistic, but someone was sharing with me a couple of weeks ago that most widows experience poverty. And that's a challenge, right? So you're helping them not do that, hopefully.
Yes, I am.
So Renee has a passion to help her clients define and pursue what's most important in their financial life by using a personalized approach, offering holistic advice that builds a lasting relationship. Renee is a St. Vincent de Paul Wish founder and an active volunteer with Fresh Start Women's Foundation and Toys for Tots. She's been a member of the Ameriprise Circle of Success since 2003, and her volunteer efforts were recognized in 2017 with an Ameriprise Financial Community Impact Award. Her practice was also awarded the inaugural Ultimate Digital Excellence Award by Ameriprise. Her recent industry awards, which we don't have time to go through this entire list, can I just tell you, it is so humbling and amazing when I read through this, but a few of them are Forbes Top Women Wealth Advisors, 2020 through 2022, Forbes #1 in Arizona Best in State Women Wealth Advisors, 2022-2023, and Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisor 2019 through 2022. There's some other awards from Barron's and probably the president in here, but I'm just so honored to have you. And in her free time, she loves spending time with her children and grandchildren, and she enjoys being outdoors, scuba diving, sewing, and traveling. So Renee, amazing. Thank you for being with us. Tell us a little bit about your journey and why did you choose financial services as a profession?
I fell into financial services in the early 80s and fell in love with it. It was one of those fate things for me. So started with a firm in Denver and grew from there. And the passion is about helping people. It's helping people feel comfortable and confident in their financial circumstances, that they can make decisions that are right for them. When we think about people, and in particular women have a very different perspective about money, as studies show us. Not that we think less of it. We view money as the purpose to live our lives fully. And oftentimes, in comparison to men who view it as what is the performance of my money? Not what does it allow me to perform, but what is the performance? One's not right or wrong. They're just different on how we perceive money.
That is so interesting. It kind of goes back to the theory, or maybe it's proven research, that one of the most important things for women is security, and security can mean financial, right?
Financial security is key for a lot of people, but in particular for women through the generations that might have had less impact or influence in terms of the household finance. And it's interesting, in my industry, it's still about 15% women that are financial advisors. And we find, studies continue to share with us, that women do not take, let me restate that women view money not as in their wheelhouse. And don't teach about money in school. So it's a different perspective, again, on the finances. So women feel less comfortable talking about money and less confident that there is enough to do that. So that's where my passion lies, is helping women be in control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as you consider, I'm just hearing leadership pour through what you're talking about, but when you think about your leadership style and other great leaders, what do you think from your perspective makes a great leader?
Well, hopefully someday I will be a great leader. But I think when we think about leadership, I think it's easy to look in the mirror and try to view yourself as the image of the title. And leadership for me is a journey of learning all the time. So I think what makes a great leader is one who can lead others and can develop more leaders and then learn from leaders, so that it's always a cycle of learning from one another. That's what I view as a great leader. The people that I've admired in leadership along the way are the ones that were comfortable in developing me in a compassionate way, but in a constructive way also. And were also willing to listen to me and my ideas and what's going on, and develop those and help me develop me and develop others. So I think it's a collaboration of other leaders. I think that's what makes a great leader, one that can collaborate, grow themselves and grow others.
Someone who doesn't think they know every single thing, because none of us do, right? And the collaboration element is just so important. And you also mentioned compassion, which I think is incredibly important, with which oftentimes women sometimes sacrifice in their role, feeling like they need to take the empathy and compassion out of that role to be a strong leader. And it's really not true.
I agree with you. You know, that old, a strong woman is aggressive, a strong man is assertive. And I believe that there's great leaders in all genders. I feel like so often we're trying to fit into a mold or a design, and we've been fabricated differently. And that uniqueness is what allows a leader to collaborate. So instead of trying to fit into the mold, it seems better if we are allowed to be authentic. And authenticity does not mean rudeness.
Right.
It means behaving with awareness, being mindful of the circumstances, being mindful of your own position as well as others. It's a 360 perspective. And it would be interesting that if all team members and leaders could come together with that perspective, maybe leadership wouldn't be by one leader, but it would be by a team. So I feel like if we can remain authentic with who we are and deliver in such a way that is considerate of others, maybe we wouldn't have to fit the mold.
I love that perspective. And it gave me a visual. And I think you answered this next question I had leading into mistakes that leaders frequently make. And I could see that being one, trying to fit into a mold that doesn't fit you, because you're really not showing up as your best self. You're really not bringing all of that genius with you because you're feeling like you need to stay in this box.
Or to perform a certain way. And isn't that true in just about every relationship? Expectations, that's a big word. The expectation of yourself and the expectation of others. And frequently we focus on what we believe other people's expectations of us are, versus our own expectations. It's a tough one and easy to fall on the other side.
Absolutely. And something else you mentioned was self-awareness.
Mhm.
That ability to sit back, to examine self, to see, am I showing up in a way that represents me, or am I trying to meet someone's expectations or fit into a mold? I think that's so important.
Yeah, and always a learning process.
Right?
It's an ongoing effort, and to recognize when you find yourself, walking that path. How do you adjust? How do you change the journey without it being a turn on and turn off? But how do you make the adjustments? Not always easy. Right?
No, not always easy. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about women and girls. And I know that that mission is important to you as well. And we touched on a little bit at the beginning, but tell us about your passion. Where does that come from? And what does your engagement in the community look like?
I think the passion comes from because we are the gender differences. We are raised differently. We're educated differently. It doesn't mean that we don't have the same access to education, but there's still a difference in how we learn and how we are raised. My passion comes from, well, I'm a woman, and I didn't have my upbringing was wonderful for me, but for someone else to perceive it, they might have passed judgment that, wow, that was kind of tough. I view it that as a way that it made me who I am. But I see women struggle so often in the financial world, and they struggle with life transitions. Frequently, women view their role in relationships one way and then discover in a life transition that their identity is changing. And that can be very challenging. Bruce Feiler in his book calls it a life quake. And I like that term because there's often, if you think of an earthquake, there's ripple effects. If you think about a rock in the water, there's ripple effects. And the same thing with a life transition. There are ripple effects, and along the way, it can be very challenging. I've discovered that for women, sometimes the ripple effects can be a little bit, they're longer lasting. And so I wanted to be able to make a difference for people to find a way through their life transitions. In one of my trainings through CEFT, Susan Bradley says, when life changes, money changes. When money changes, life changes. And I think that that's true for all genders, but in particular for women, if they've relied on someone else to handle the finances of the house, a divorce or widowhood can be debilitating and can prevent them from moving forward. So I do have a passion around young girls. I remember as a Girl Scout, all the things that I learned. I love Girl Scouting. I still think it's a fabulous opportunity for girls. But I do believe that women think about money differently. So that's where my passion lies. How do I help women? So I help at Fresh Start with the divorce seminars and offer consultations to women going, charge consultations to women who are going through divorce. We, through Dignity Drive with St. Vincent de Paul and with Wish Women in Service and Hope, we collect gently used and new bras for women exiting homelessness, so that they have dignity in their appearance, to be able to go into an interview, to be able to operate in public, because society still expects that type of clothing. So it's a big passion of mine to help women who may not be on sound footing just yet, might be temporarily vulnerable, but quite capable of finding their way, sometimes with a hand up or with a little bit of information. A big passion of mine, yes.
I can tell, and so eloquently said. Thank you. I'm super excited. So when you think about financial services and especially financial planning, where do you think women hit the mark and or miss the mark? So we've talked a little bit about how women potentially view money, but what does that look like tactically when maybe they're hitting the mark and they're actually engaged? What does that look like?
I think a big one there is that many women don't feel that they're qualified to work with a financial advisor, that they don't have enough or make enough. I hear that more often than I like, that's for sure. Even women in professional services that I've met that have said, I don't think when do you really need a financial advisor? You need a financial advisor as soon as you have a level of income. You may not need the full services of a financial advisor with full comprehensive planning, but you certainly want to begin the advice of at what point in time would you? So an initial consultation with a financial advisor that offers a complimentary one can give you guidance on when you might be ready to really work with a financial advisor on a comprehensive basis. But start early. Anytime you have a job, you have benefits that you need to elect. You begin to have a 401k that you want to participate in. So I say start early.
That's such a great message, especially as I think about creating financial stability, regardless of the stage you are in life. I am ever so grateful for having that information when I was 18, 19, early on in my career. And, I had started my first corporate job, and a boss said, you realize that this financial planning, these solutions are available to you and you should be taking advantage of them. And of course, at the time, I wasn't making great money because it was my entry level first job. And I thought, oh my goodness, I still need to pay the bills. And, he really helped me to understand financial stability for me and what that could look like. And I agree with you. Starting early is so important. Anytime you have a job, even if there weren't those financial benefits associated with it, starting to plan early makes such a difference.
I think one of the key there is if you think of any business, a business will live by their P&L, their profit and loss, and their balance sheet. They will make their decisions around that. And in a household, it's called a budget. And I know that that's like diet. So we can have a cash flow plan, like an eating plan.
Right.
That cash flow is critical to how you will make decisions and how you will live your life. The same with the balance sheet, it's your net worth. The goal is to build your net worth along the way. And to do that, you have to pay yourself first. And paying yourself first is taking advantage of things like 401ks, building adequate cash reserves, 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So if something goes bump, middle of the night, you have a little bit of a life quake, you're able to manage your finances as you await recovery from the life quake. And those are things that too frequently people ignore because they have a paycheck or they get a raise, they get to increase their quality of life. But then they're always chasing their future rather than preparing for their future and planning for it now. So the cash flow is the crux of financial success. And it's not about how much you make, but it's how much you spend. Because you hear about, athletes that make millions of dollars, movie stars, millions of dollars, and they end up broke. It's not because of how much they made, it's because of how much they spend.
Are you chasing your future or preparing for it? I love that. I love that. So as we finish up our time today, you've just given some tremendous nuggets. So thank you so much for that. I know our listeners are going to benefit from all of it. What do you think, if we come back to the topic of leadership, what do you think are some of the ways leaders can ensure that they're growing and developing tactically? What are some things that maybe you do?
I believe that you can always learn from another leader, a mentor. So don't be afraid to mingle in your circle of other leaders and listen to what they're doing, listen to what they're seeing, and listen to their challenges. But don't be afraid to also ask, how are they going to address those challenges? Because it gives you a chance then to think about how you might address it if you experience it. In leadership, and particularly in early leadership roles, a lot of the communication comes from the leader. The most effective leaders that I see use their ears more than their mouths. And their leadership comes from truly hearing what somebody is saying and understanding what someone is saying so that they can provide the right direction, whether it's with words right now or follow-up actions. But truly hearing and listening is the key to a healthy relationship with the people that you lead.
I love it. Love it. Love it. So last question for you. Last two. Who's your hero?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. And, I always go back to things in life. So my father, for me, was a hero of human nature. You know, when you think about other leaders, you can certainly go through a whole list of people that you could admire, and learn from. But my father gave me the foundation. So for that, he's my hero.
Okay.
What was the second question?
The second one is, I think just listening to you today, people are going to want to reach out to you. So how can they find you?
Affinity Wealth Advisory Group. We're easy to find on the website. You can go right to Affinity Wealth Advisory Group, or you can call us at 602-923-9800. We're always happy to answer questions, offer that complimentary consultation, and give you some guidance so that you know when it's time to work with a financial advisor.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I look forward to doing the Dignity Drive with you later this year. And I really appreciate you being on today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, as always, visiting with you.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.